Hello and welcome to episode 13 of my knitting podcast. My name is Annika and I'm coming to you from Germany. I am an avid knitter as well as a natural yarn dyer, and I love everything that is related to the fiber arts. In this episode I have 2 finished objects to share with you, as well as 2 cast-ons that you haven't seen before on the podcast yet. And I also have some yarn acquisitions that I'm going to share with you towards the end of the video. Let's get started. The first finished object that I want to share with you is also the one that I'm wearing right now, and it is the Porcelain Damask sweater by Lene Holme Samsø. Let me stand up for a minute so that I can give you a full look of the sweater. As you might be able to tell by the smile on my face, I'm very happy with how the sweater turned out. I knitted it in Knitting for Olive yarn. I used the merino held together with one strand of their soft silk mohair, which is their silk mohair blend. And the merino yarn was in the colorway Nordic Beach and the soft silk mohair in the colorway Oat. Now, the Nordic Beach was heavily inspired by Rachel from Those Twins Who Knit, who used this yarn to make a sweater for her own. She did a design by Sari Nordland, and I'm very happy with how those 2 colorways created this very light beige, light tan color. One thing I do have to mention is that I was a bit surprised when the yarn arrived at my home that the colorway, especially the Nordic Beach one, looked a lot different compared to the pictures on the homepage. So that's something to keep in mind if you also have to shop for Knitting for Olive online, that you might have an issue with the colors looking a lot different on the screen than they are in real life. For me, this turned out quite well. I really love the way it came out, but I do have to say it looked a lot warmer on the pictures than it looks in real life. It is quite a cool toned beige, almost a gray, and that was not what I was expecting. But besides that, I'm very happy with my color choice and, like I said, with the sweater as well. The needle size I used was a 4mm needle, which corresponds to a US 6. My gauge was a bit tighter than the one that is stated in the pattern, so I got 23 stitches over 10 centimeters or 4 inches, and in the pattern she mentions, I think, 21 stitches. So this meant that my version would be a bit smaller. But even though I knew this prior to knitting the sweater, I still opted to go for the smallest size because I was afraid that a huge amount of positive ease would look a bit strange on me. And I just don't really like those very oversized styles on me personally. I think it looks cool on others, but not so much for me. So the recommended positive ease is 15 to 25 centimeters. That's the one in the pattern. That corresponds to 6 to 10 inches. And like I said, I wanted less, but to be honest, when I tried the sweater on for the first time, pre-blocking, I was a bit surprised how form-fitting it was. It was not very tight, but it was a bit less oversized than I thought it would be, especially since it is a drop shoulder design. But the sweater did grow a lot while blocking, both in the width and also the length, which you might be able to tell on the sleeves. So my sleeves are now quite long, and I wasn't really expecting that, but width-wise, I'm now very happy with the fit. I do have 9 centimeters or 3.5 inches of positive ease now, which I think is completely fine. But in hindsight, I do think I could have gone up one size and knitted not the smallest, but the second to smallest size, and it would have been completely fine. So this might be something for me to keep in mind for a future knitting project. If I am going for an oversized look, I shouldn't be afraid to really go for the oversized look. I don't have to always steer on the side of form-fitting, I think. So we are now joined by Bonnie the puppy. I hope she's not going to be too noisy. And I wanted to talk a bit more about the Porcelain Damask sweater. Here we go. So The sleeves and also the bottom hem are casted off with an Italian bind-off, which is a sewn bind-off that I have never done before. And I do have to say it was very time consuming and also a bit complicated in the beginning. I really had to wrap my hand about, not my hand, my head around the motion that had to be done. It is a bit elaborate, so I wasn't too happy with it. Let me see if I can show you Bonnie. Can you see that? It does look very nice, but compared to my usual favorite bind-off, which is the Icelandic bind-off, I don't see a huge difference. And if I would have to do it again, I think I would just opt for the Icelandic bind-off instead. It is a lot faster, it also looks very beautiful, and it does not take forever. Besides that, I briefly wanted to mention the modifications I made to the pattern. I opted to do fewer rounds for the folded collar. In total, I think I did 8 rounds, less than what was recommended in the pattern. And I also decided to knit 3 centimeter longer cuffs for the sleeves, because I was afraid that the sleeves would be too short because I do have quite long arms. In the end, that was totally unnecessary because the sweater grew so much with blocking. It would have been completely fine if I would have just followed the pattern to a T. But oh well, I'm still very happy, and I think those long sleeve cuffs only add to the cozy feel of this beautiful design. And my second finished object is one that I don't have with me anymore because it was a gift knit for my mom. So my mom has had a severe health issue and she had to go to a rehabilitation clinic to recover. And I desperately wanted to make something for her, something cozy and something for her to snuggle up in. So I decided to make a pair of socks. I'm going to put up a picture for you so that you can see. It was a bit of a stressful knitting experience because I was in a bit of time pressure, and I knitted those socks in just a couple of days. I have also filmed the whole video about this experience, which I'm going to link for you in case you're interested. And the yarn that I used is a combination of 2 different yarns. I used several different colors from Nutiden yarn, which is an unspun yarn from the Swedish company Honorrock Air. I'm going to put up another picture for you so that you can see the colors that I used. And I held these together with a strand of a silk mohair from Drops, which is their kit silk base. And I originally purchased this as an undyed white yarn and then naturally dyed it myself using logwood and madder, which created this beautiful deep purple with just a hint of madder shining through in the silk thread. So it was a very enjoyable knit, and of course I really liked gifting those socks to my mom, and she also really liked them. Since I held 2 yarns together, I decreased the amount of stitches I casted on. I only casted on 48 stitches. The pattern that I used is one of my own designs called the Camare socks, and it is a very simple but I think also beautiful design with this broken rib motif all over, and due to the ribbing, this means that the sock is going to be quite stretchy, so great for gift knitting. And yeah, it is knitted top down, and like I said, I casted on 48 stitches. Did I tell you which needle I used? I used a 2.5mm needle, which corresponds to a US 1.5. And that's my second finished object for this episode. Next up is a new cast on that I haven't talked about in the podcast yet. I have only shared about it in my winter knitting plans video that I just uploaded last week. And it is the sweater number 28 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. Let me give you a closer look. So you have this beautiful texture pattern which consists of garter stitch and interspersed with 1x1 rib. And you start at the neck and then work your way down. And as you can see, I opted to do the sleeves first, and afterwards I'm going to knit the body because this is a drop shoulder design, and I always feel like you are not going to be able to tell how the shoulders are going to sit if you don't have the added weight of the sleeves. So that's why I think it's best to knit the sleeves first, and then you can see how the sweater falls and how long you will have to knit the body. If you're wondering about this giant neck, this is a modification that I made. I decided to make the neck double the size of what is written in the pattern, because then I can either fold it outwards like a turtleneck or fold it inwards, because I really like this look. And what else I really like, let me see if I can show you this beautiful shoulder line here. It's a very, very clever construction. I do have to say I did have some issues with getting some holes. I'm not sure if you'll be able to tell. There was one type of increase that is done on the purl side that I hadn't done before, and I think I must have done it wrong, and it created those very small holes. But I think if the sweater is blocked, you will not be able to tell it anymore, and I'm still very, very happy with the beautiful shoulder line. The yarn I'm using is a mix of 2 yarns actually. I am holding one strand of this beautiful natural silver colorway from Hill Country Weavers, together with one strand of a 100% cashmere yarn. So this was from a store-bought sweater that I unraveled that belonged to my father-in-law. And this one is the Naturally HCW ACL, which stands for Hill Country Weavers Alpaca Cashmere Love, and it is a blend of alpaca, cashmere, and silk, I think. I hope I'm going to put it up for you on the screen. So I got this yarn when we were in Austin, Texas in October, and I'm very happy that I am already knitting with it, and together those 2 yarns create the most beautiful and soft fabric, and I'm very much looking forward to being able to wearing this beautiful sweater very soon. Totally forgot that I also wanted to talk about the gauge. So the needle size I'm using is a US 6, which corresponds to a 4mm needle, and my gauge is 24 stitches and 38 rows over 10 centimeters or 4 inches pre-blocking, compared to 21 stitches and 32 rows in the pattern. So my sweater, again similar to the porcelain damask sweater, is going to be smaller. Nevertheless, again, I opted to do the smallest size because the recommended ease in the pattern is 35 centimeters, which corresponds to 13.75 inches, which is definitely quite a lot. So mine is going to be a lot smaller. I'm still hopeful that the sweater is going to fit me just fine, but I'll definitely keep you posted. Next up is a work in progress that you have seen before, and it is my Nutiden cardigan. Let me show you, because I did knit a bit on this in the meantime. So this is a pattern called Slanted Sleeven by Anke Strick, and I'm knitting it in an unspun yarn. So this is Nutiden yarn in the colorway Nogran, and it is this beautiful light brown or very dark beige, and I'm holding 2 strands together to create this beautiful fabric. I'm really loving how this one is turning out. As you can see, it is knitted from the top down, and it has an integrated button band, which I really like. This is done by double knitting, and I've now put the sleeves on hold and I'm working my way down. But what I'm planning to do here is to add some color work detail both on the bottom hem and on the cuffs. I'm going to put up the picture that was my inspiration for this idea up on the screen so that you can see. So this is a cardigan also in Nogran, and it's also the Slanted Sleeven. And this cardigan belongs to Caroline, who is one of the owners from Honorog Air. And she made this beautiful piece by using the colorwork motif from the Lunenburg pullover by Amy Christophers. And at first I thought I would just copy her and do the same, but then I decided to come up with my own idea, and I did this little swatch, just experimenting a bit with the scraps that I have here and that with the stitches that I wanted to do, because I do have this huge bowl of Nutiden yarn. This was from different surprise bags where you can order 200 grams of Nutiden yarn and you do not know which colors you're going to get. And I've wound them all up into little balls so that I can use them for my colorwork project. And after knitting the swatch, I also made a very childlike looking schematic. Let me see if you can show, if I can show you. So this is it. This is going to be a 41 row repeat, and that's what I'm going to do. So I am now going to knit down just a bit more, and then I'm going to add the color work. And for my design, I try to make sure to minimize the amount of purl rows where I have to also do color work. So most of the color work is done on the right side of the cardigan. And then I'm also going to do the same for the sleeves. And I do have to say, I'm very much looking forward to being able to wear this beautiful cardigan, because I feel like it's going to be so warm and cozy. And the only reason that I have not made more progress on this yet is that I just was more excited about other knitting projects. For example, the porcelain damask sweater or the sweater number 28. But I'm definitely planning to finish this very soon so that I'll be able to wear it this year. I am using a US 3, which corresponds to a 3.25 millimeter needle, and my gauge is 18 stitches per 10 centimeter or 4 inches, and in the pattern there is a gauge of 22 stitches over 10 centimeters or 4 inches. So my gauge is a lot bigger. This means that the cardigan is going to be larger, but I'm completely fine with this, because if you have a look at the pattern pictures, this is a very form-fitting cardigan, and I am looking more for a bit looser cardigan that I can wear open, so I think it's going to be completely fine. The next work in progress that I wanted to show you is this hat, and this is again one of my own designs called the Schneeflöckchen hat, and I'm knitting this one in unspun yarn as well. This time I'm using Manchalopis from the Spanish company Wool Dreamers, together with, this is Plötulopi from the Icelandic company Istex, and I'm going to put the colorway names up on the screen, and those two create this very beautiful hat, in my opinion at least. So the Schneeflöckchen hat features this double brim to keep your ears extra warm, and it has this very simple colorwork motif on the body of the hat and another snowflake motif at the crown. And the name Schneeflöckchen actually means little snowflake in German, because I originally designed the hat, or I knitted the first sample for one of my daughters, and that's why I went with the little snowflake instead of just snowflake, which would be Schneeflocke in German. The needle I am using is a 3 millimeter needle, which corresponds to a US 2.5, and since this creates a larger gauge than the one that is in the pattern, I simply opted to cast on fewer stitches. Yeah, and overall I think this is coming along nicely, but similar to the slanted sleeven, I just had other projects on my needles that I was more excited about. That's why I have not finished this one yet, but I'm hoping to finish it sometime in December. Next up is the first gift knit that I am making for this holiday season, and it is the Santa pillow by Kathy Lewinsky. I am almost halfway done already, which I'm very pleased with, but I did cast on a bit fewer stitches. I think I took out 2 of those Santa colorwork repeats. So as you can see, this is an all-over colorwork design and features those super cute Santas or little gnomes. And what else? The yarn I am using is Sandnes Garn Pear Gynt, and I have those, let me see, those 4 different colorways. I also wrote down the names in case you're interested. Where are they? So I am using the 1065, that's the charcoal gray, the 1001 is the white, the almond one is the 2511, and the red is the 4255. And I think they look very nice together. I have not worked with the Sandnesgarn Peer Gynt before, but I always wanted to give it a try. They have a number of beautiful colorways. There are also some 3D or speckled ones that I would really like to try out in the future. I also really like the way it feels, and I'm very pleased with how this project is coming along so far. The needles I am using are a US 7, which correspond to a 4.5 millimeter needle. And like I said, I'm in good spirits that I will be done with this project in the next couple of days so that I can move on to my next gift knitting project. Something else that I wanted to mention is that I originally intended to naturally dye the yarns myself for this project, and I think it would be completely doable, but I simply ran out of time. That's why I didn't do it. But in case you are thinking about doing something similar, I wanted to share my thoughts with you. So I think this red colorway could be accomplished by using, for example, cochineal or madder or maybe leg. Then you could of course use the undyed yarn. And for this almond color or a skin color, I think you could either use acorns or oak galls. And if you would dye just a bit more of that and then modify the yarn afterwards, or half of the yarn with ferrous sulfate or iron, you could get a beautiful dark gray. So there you have it. You could easily dye these colorways up yourself if you would like to do so. And if you would like to know more about dyeing yarn with natural dyes, I have written a free guide walking you through all of the steps in the natural dyeing process, and I'm going to link that for you in the description box. Next up, let's talk about yarn acquisitions and dream knitting. Now, I've just showed you the Peer Gynt yarn that I purchased to make the pillow for my parents. And I also got yarn for my sister in order to make her an Oslo hat, a pattern by Petite Knit. So this is again Sandnesgarn. This time it is the Double Sunday. And the colorway name is the 5930. And that's from the Petite Knit range. I have 3 skeins of this, and like I said, I'm going to do the Oslo hat for her. And while I was at my local yarn store, which is called Amatalana and is located in Mannheim, Germany, I'm going to link it for you in the description box. They also have an online store. I also got this beautiful yarn, which I have been eyeing for quite some time, and this is the Snevnuk by Camarosa, which is a blend of 55% baby alpaca, 35% cotton, and 10% merino. This is the colorway 7338 Merk Rosa. And there is actually a bit of a sad story to tell when it comes to this yarn, because I purchased this yarn as a replacement because I did something very stupid. Let me show you. Can you imagine what that is? This used to be one of my favorite cardigans called the Timepiece cardigan, patterned by Albina McLaughlin. That was my first unspun yarn knitting project that I did in the spring of this year. And I absolutely loved the cardigan. I knitted it with 300 grams of Nutidin in the colorway Lives Linear, holding it double. And it had those 3/4 length sleeves, and it was a bit slouchy and open, and I put it on a ton. And then one day I was in a bit of a rush and I decided to wash the cardigan in the washing machine, and it completely felted. Look at it. Now it does not even fit my daughters anymore, maybe one of my toddler nieces, but yeah, I can't believe I did that. I was so shocked and so sad when I took it out of the washing machine, and yeah, I cannot believe that I made this stupid mistake. I know that wool fells, and I don't know what I was thinking. It's really a sad story. It's almost disturbing how sad I was about something as insignificant as a garment, but I put so much love and time into making this cardigan, and I love to wear it so much, and yeah, now it looks like that. But yeah, I think I found an awesome replacement. That's a bit of a negative thing about Nutiden yarn, because they do come out with those collections throughout the year and they usually sell out. There is no way of getting the yarn again, so there is no way of me knitting another timepiece cardigan in Nutiden yarn colorway Lives Linear, because it's simply not available anymore. But let me show you. I think the Snefnook has a very, very similar color, and it is also a beautiful yarn. It is very soft, it is a blown yarn, and I'm very much looking forward to knitting with this. I have 7 skeins of the Snefnook, which comes in 50 gram, not skeins, balls, so 350 grams in total. And I'm either simply going to knit another timepiece cardigan, or I'm also thinking about doing the Tweedy Shrug by Beata Jecek of Hedgehog Fibers, which is a free pattern, and it just came out this fall, so this might be another option and create a similar look to my former timepiece cardigan. What are you currently knitting on? Please share in the comments. I would love to know. And if you would like to get some more knitting pattern inspiration, I recommend that you have a look at this video next. Until next time, bye guys!